Thanks for tuning in to Know Wine in No Time. I'm your host Dave, and today we're going to explore the wine producing country of Uruguay. So Uruguay is located in the southern hemisphere in the continent of South America, and it's situated in between Argentina and Brazil. And when we look at it as a wine producer in South America, it actually is the fourth largest wine producer in that continent, and it produces about 18 million liters of wine per year. So Uruguay differs quite a bit from some of its competitors. When we think about Argentine and Chilean wines, those are heavily influenced by the Pacific Ocean, and the climates there are subtropical. When we look at Uruguay, it's just the opposite. It's influenced by the Atlantic Ocean, and its climate is a bit closer, resembling to the climates in Portugal, or most famously, Bordeaux. So when we think about that, it is really quite different, and they produce a different subset of grapes compared to some of their neighbors to the west. Now, when we look at Uruguay and we think about where those vineyards are situated, most of them are along the Atlantic coast. And we think about the biggest, largest producing region, we think of one called Canelones. And Canelones is situated in the middle of the vineyard stripe along the coast, and it produces about 2/3 of all the wine coming out of Uruguay. So when we think about that, now we start to think about what the subset of grapes are. And there's really two that dominate Uruguayan viticulture. And the first is a black skin red wine grape called Tannat, and that's what we're going to taste. The second one is a green skin white wine grape by the name of Albarino. So Albarino is number 2 in production. Tannat is solidly in first place in production. And it's really interesting because when we think of viticulture in Uruguay, it really is quite a newcomer. They've been producing wine for about 150 years, and Tannat has always been the star. And one vintner famously said, "We didn't choose Tannat, Tannat chose us." And what they mean by that is their climate was absolutely perfect for producing this type of grape. Now, if you've been a follower of Know Wine in No Time, there is a really deep dive on Tannat that's a video that references its ancestral home, and that's a place called Mataron, which is in southwest France. So if you search for that and find the Mataron video, you'll learn all about Tannat. But on a superficial level, Tannat is a black skin, very thick skin, very tannic grape. And we think about producing a wine from this grape, we have to be careful because seeds and stems also contribute to tannins in wine. So a lot of times Tannats are produced in just a berry fermentation. In other words, the stems are thrown out. And that's a very interesting technique because it keeps the tannins in check. And a tannic wine is one that can age for decades, but we also can have some unpleasant presentation in the wine when it first is young. So you're probably interested in finding out what this beautiful Uruguayan Tannat tastes like. So I picked one for you today from a vintner by the name of Garzon. And Garzon produces a Tannat, they call it a Reserva. And there really isn't wine laws in Uruguay that say a Reserva has to be aged for X number of months. So what we would expect then, just much like the US, the Reserva means that Garzon feels this is a better expression of their Tannat. So let's take a look at it. The first thing that we'll notice is this wine is completely opaque. I cannot see through it at all. It is so dark it's almost black in the glass with just hints of purple around the edges. If we swirl to liberate the aromas, the first thing that comes out of the glass is everything from a candied plum to a bit of crushed earth to a little bit of forest floor, kind of like leaves after a rain, to just a little bit of cherry. So let's go ahead and take a sip. When we taste Garzon's Tannat, the first thing that we notice on the front side of the palate, we get just a little bit of really a dark plum type flavor. Think more like a black skin or a prune type of plum. And then we get a little bit of almost like a cherry liqueur up front with a little bit of spiciness. I'm getting everything from herbs to a little bit of cracked black peppercorn. Mid-palate, beautiful acidity in this wine, keeps it nice and clean and very fresh. And on the back side of the palate, we feel those powerful tannins kick in. We feel a very astringent drying effect on the tongue and a little bit of a lingering finish from the oak that this wine was aged in. So you might be wondering what an Uruguayan Tannat will pair well with. So because it's a tannic powerhouse, think all things proteins and fats. And for that, I like a steak, but not necessarily a filet mignon, but think more like a ribeye or a prime rib type of steak, something that's got nice marbled fat in it. This wine will stand up to it, and what you'll see is when you eat the meat and consume those kind of fatty proteins, is it will diffuse the tannins, and all those beautiful fruits will come to the front and really be the dominant feature in this wine. So I'm going to get back and enjoy a little bit more of Garzon's creation, and I ask that you tune in next time, because soon you'll know wine in no time.